what age do you like tend to like? Is it okay at any point or never at all?
No, we believe it's not okay at any point. That's what the scripture would say. That's what we believe as Christians, that it's not okay at any stage.
Because I find it. I'm a scientist actually. I work in fetal medicine.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm always finding it very conflicting.
Well, when do the biology textbooks in every major university, including Harvard and whatnot, say that life begins at?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because often it's at like a heartbeat.
Fertilization. Every single major biology textbook I can show you says that life begins at fertilization.
Yeah, but like, what do you? My question is, because I've seen a lot of horrendous things kind of through.
Like that.
Yeah, when the fetus passes away in the uterus.
Yep.
Like, what do you believe should be done at that point?
100% can remove it. You're removing a dead baby. You're not killing a living, growing baby.
I was wondering, because I see like it can kill the mother if you
yes.
keep it. Yeah,
so a lot of pro-abort, pro-choices in America make the argument that we would stand against that procedure. There is no state in America, and there's no state in Australia, that doesn't allow a surgeon or a doctor to go into a mother's womb and remove a dead baby.
Yeah.
So even the most pro-life states in America, you are of course able to remove a dead human being.
I'm wondering like what the perspective is in, for example, if a fetus has, it's called trisomy 18, so you have 3 copies of 18.
Yep.
Like, if we know that is not conducive to life as soon as they leave the womb, you still believe that they should deliver and let it pass away?
The doctor has the Hippocratic oath to do no harm. So their problem is they can't kill the living thing. So we advocate for doing the best to save all life. So we obviously want the mother's life to be saved, but we believe equally we should try to save the baby. So you have edge pregnancies, or what's the fallopian tube when it's edge pregnancy or ectopic pregnancy. So there have been cases where they can take the baby from that position and implant it, take it and put it in the womb. But we don't say, oh, the baby's living off with the mother, doing okay, but it's on the edge here, kill it, because we just say do no harm across the board.
But I'm saying as if like it is a fully grown fetus, but it's got a really abnormal like physiological appearance.
Yeah.
And so we know as soon like it won't be able to breathe, for example, as soon as it like the umbilical cord is cut. Like, do you still, what is the perspective there?
Well, we would say there's been so many cases where a doctor has reported, like I can give you a famous case of a guy who's an abolitionist like us, whose son Augustine was he had the worst case of spina bifida you can have, and he came out and he was completely fine.
But spina bifida is conducive to life. Like,
but
it's not a long life.
they said that it was like stage 4. It was like the worst case that you can get out of all of the cases, and he came out completely fine. So doctors can often be wrong, but just because a doctor says no, we're pretty sure we're right, your baby's going to be born without a liver or something, we don't go, yeah, well then kill it. So it's almost like, well, it's going to die, so let's make it die. It's like, no, that doesn't make much sense. If we're going to be consistent across the board, is the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm, so we can't kill because it might die.
You just have to see what happens, is essentially.
Yes, and I believe there would be so many mothers, not just Christian mothers, who would go, I would like to hold my baby.
Oh, of course, yeah. And that's the thing about a lot of abortion cases. It's a really rough period for the person who's getting it, especially the medical ones where the fetus is dead and they have to still deliver it, or they can't deliver it.
Agree, completely agree.
And like, I'm wondering maybe if some of these images could be from that, or if
we know these ones aren't. So the ones that we have, they're all from aborted. These are from America.
Yeah.
We all know these are not AI generated. You can, if somebody says they're AI generated, say count the fingers. You know how AI can't do hands and toes,
that's true,
right?
Actually, yeah.
And people want them to be AI so they don't go, oh, this is real. These are real photos of aborted babies. Again, we try to change the language around because we all speak English, and then we use fetus as like a euphemism to get away from human baby or human child. The other thing that was interesting that you did is when we talk about women, and it's a rough time for women, the people who have the hardest time is the dead baby. So like
I don't think they have thoughts or anything about
I have a wife and I have a daughter and I have a son, and it's it's not you. I'm not having go. It's really dehumanizing to say to a mum, it's a rough period for you, that's why we should kill your son or daughter. It's like, it doesn't matter how rough it is. I said to someone the other day, they were going out before Anzac Day, and I said, when you speak to people on the street, remind people on the street, our diggers didn't fight for abortion. None of them believed in abortion.
Well, I see these
right?
I see these dead babies every day. I have to.
I'm so sorry that you have to do that, but thank you for your work.
That's okay, and it's so rough. Like, I think as a young woman as well, I'm like...
Well, when I make these signs, I weep. And I say sorry, because we have a culture, there's 244 conservatively a day on average that are being murdered. And I see this and I weep. And I weep for the culture. Like, I'm not going to show you. If you go on our YouTube, you'll see it when I upload it. Today, a girl came across the road, looked at this, smiled, didn't care about this, looked me straight in the face. She would have been 18 and said, I hope your daughter gets raped. So we live in a culture where, the Christians are out here telling people not to murder their babies. We just need people with an open mind to go, just listen to them. They're not...
perceive people that disagree with you? Like,
well, we welcome the disagreement, but let's say you were a fly on the wall for 5 hours, and you stood here and you watched the opponents of what we're doing. I guarantee you, or go to Abolitionist Rising or go to Abolish Abortion Australia, look at the conversations we have. You will walk away going, the pro-aborts don't know anything. It's just literally my body, my choice. And I go, the body inside your body is not your body. If a woman's pregnant, does she have a penis? No. You always dead end them. And then what they do is they don't go, that's my main argument. They just move to the next argument so you can give it a crack. So that guy just threatened to hit us.
I just find that interesting because, like, I am a Christian as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. They always move to the next argument, and so it allows them to, because people think, if you want to really know, because we've been doing this for a while, if you want to really know why women want to be able to do this, it's not defending women who are really, really all about the life and the health of a baby, and making sure that we uphold life, the sanctity of life. They're going, I'm off to Ibiza in 3 weeks. I'm with child. How am I going to party and have sex in Spain? It's always, the argument is essentially always angry, screaming, nonsensical, non-logical, and it always ends up being, you want to go selfishly, worship yourself and do whatever you want. So we take pills, we chemically abort, we do all those things.
Prior to that, like, what do you believe about contraception? Like,
we're against IVF. Because all of the tiny image bearers of God are locked away in icy prisons waiting for their death sentence. So what people do is they'll get 5 viable embryos or 5 viable tiny humans at the very beginning of life and go, I've had a son, I've had a daughter, and you go, what do you want with the other 4 or 5? And people go, someone will experiment on them. This is what happens. They get experimented on, they get adopted by other parents, or they get discarded. And I
work in the industry. I know how it works. You don't need to explain.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't trying to... I'm not mansplaining. I wasn't.
I feel like you've been talking a lot. I was just asking some questions, but...
well, I'm trying to be fair and have a back and forth.
I respect it. But, so, in terms of you don't agree with contraception, like, if I were to get pregnant,
yep.
What do you think? Like, what would I do?
So this question always comes up. We have a sign.
I think as a woman,
we have the sign in the back of my car, literally up the road. It's orange. It has 2 ultrasounds on it, and it says which one of these babies was conceived in rape and which one deserves to die. So it gets you to think about. I always say to the person that pitches that question, first, let's deal with the rapist. And I want to see if they're about consistency and fair punishment. Should we punish the rapist to death? That's my position. That's the Christian position. Never want to talk about the rapist. He gets off scot-free in every scenario. Don't worry about him. So I'm like, so the guy who's the baby's not the worst. You're not the worst. You're innocent. The baby's innocent. The guy who raped, what do you want to do with him? And they go, forget him. So then I would say, we don't punish children to death for the sins of their father or mother.
Forgetting him? Like, that's my...
Who? The rapist?
The rapist.
No.
I'm like, why?
In our scenario, when this comes up, we advocate for the death penalty for the rapist. The opponents of what we're doing don't advocate for that. He just walks off somewhere.
So the death penalty, how can you, doesn't God decide?
God, so all throughout the Old Testament, so that the punishment for eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, life for a life, is if you take the blood of the innocent so shall your blood be shed.
So
and that would be the biggest tutor to our culture, because if we had a culture that said, because you know how women are like, rapists get off scot-free, everyone should be out here, all the feminists should be going, well, at least those guys really want to deal with them. They want to punish them to death.
But they're not the pictures that you have on here.
No, because the problem in Australia is not rapists getting off. We don't have 244 rapists getting off a day.
Well, we don't know that.
But the thing is, we don't know that. We don't not know that. We don't not know that.
Correct.
So when somebody, like, we do know this, and so when we advocate for this, we have people go, what about the kids in Palestine? I go, I don't agree with what's happening in Palestine. But if that's your issue, I say to them, are you sending money to kids in Palestine? And they're so stupid that they go, no. And I go, so you're a hypocrite. Okay, you send money to the kids in Palestine. I'm going to save the kids here. And then one of them, I had that interaction at Newcastle Uni. She goes, step back, step back. I said, what, into the tram or the truck? Yeah. So I care so much about life, Palestinian life, not this life and not your life. It's like, so you're just a hypocrite.
Yeah, interesting.
So we're abolitionists, and historically in history, 200 years ago, William Wilberforce was an abolitionist. He's a Christian, and he heard, my plantation, my choice. If you don't want a slave, don't own a slave. They're not really humans. Talking about Negroes. That's what they'll call it at the time. Negroes, blacks, slaves. And he, as a Christian, went, no, they are humans. They're made in the image of God. I don't care what the culture says. He was a tiny minority, and it took him 8 years with bills of abolition to abolish chattel slavery to the glory of God, because he advocated for life and for the sanctity of all life.
See, I can't believe you advocate for the death sentence.
Of course.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
What would you say should happen to the rapist?
I think it should be litigated, for sure. I think we need to build better policies at actually retaining them.
What should the punishment be?
I don't think death. I don't think you should decide the death of other people. I mean, I guess similar to this. As a Christian, I believe...
Like, but you're against this?
I'm kind of right in the middle. But to be honest, I've seen a lot of things. I've been working in...
But is the things that you've seen, are they worse than the fact that we do this so that we can go to Ibiza and take pills and have sex?
But that's not who I am, and that's not what most women are like.
No, not you,
like,
but...
What's your wife like?
My wife is an amazing human being.
I know,
people say, where's your wife? And I say she's at home looking after the two babies she didn't kill.
I'm saying you believe that she's a woman of virtue and modesty, probably.
Yep.
And a lot of women are like, I know some people you might see around.
No woman could be a woman of virtue and honesty if they allow child sacrifice. So if somebody was to say to me as a Christian, she's a good woman, I say she supports child sacrifice, or she's taken part in child sacrifice, Jesus can save her. We have that message on our signs.
So you believe that rape is like an eye for eye. So do you think that if someone rapes, they should die and not they should be...
Yeah, I think it's one of the most egregious sins in the world.
Yeah.
And rapists in the Bible were punished to death for their sins.
But do you think that's for you to decide?
If God decides it, as Christians,
but how do you know that God isn't deciding such things?
So if God has clearly spoken in his holy and inerrant word, we can literally read the text of scripture where he prescribes the death penalty. So we just prescribe the death penalty as God would. We don't go outside of what he says. So, you know,
But he doesn't know that, like, he hasn't made those decisions and it's not in the scripture, those specific circumstances.
But then as a Christian, you're it's clear in the scripture. Yeah. Your difficult argument is that now you have to go and say to people, maybe carpet bombing Palestine is the will of God and it's good and we shouldn't try and advocate to stop it. And I would say, I wouldn't agree with that.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what I mean? We don't want to just say, everything's the will of God, so I punch you in the face and you walk off with a broken jaw going, that's the will of God. You go to the police and go, I don't know about that.
Okay. Interesting. Well,
what was your name?
Emily.
Emily Todd. Really nice to meet you. Thank you for the polite conversation. I really appreciate it. God bless you. See ya.
It's like just a bit.